in one lawn, in one garden, and it's unexplainable.
There are things that happen in the dead of night that we might be better off not knowing about.
Now, Troutbeck in Cumbria, northern England. July 23rd, 2020. 9:30 a.m. Carpenter Rory Davis vacations in a rustic cottage with his family.
Been going ever since I was a young lad, and it was no different from the rest. It was just a Thursday morning, it was raining, there was not much to do, and I was literally just chilling in my bed.
But Rory's mother discovers there's something strange going on outside.
I could tell by the look in her face that she was serious and something weird was going on. So I got out of bed, I rushed straight to the window, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Hundreds of sheep stood frozen in this field. I genuinely was so shocked. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Every single last one of those sheep were frozen. Not a single one was moving. I couldn't comprehend what was going on. It was almost like someone had pulled the switch and the world just stopped.
Over 100 sheep, an entire herd, seemed to be affected by some bizarre glitch.
I was shaking. I thought, I've got to catch this on film because otherwise no one's going to believe me. It's my word against theirs. It allowed me to actually zoom in, and as I panned around, some of them were stuck frozen in the point that they were probably eating or half bent down to sit down, lie down, whatever. They had completely frozen still.
What the heck? It's like time has just stopped. Everything is frozen.
They're so emotionally... Look, nothing is moving in this clip.
At first, journalist Jeff Wise thinks the odd behavior of the sheep may be a reaction to an imminent threat.
Sheep are prey animals. They evolve to minimize predation. And one of the responses that animals have is you can freeze, immobilize yourself. If the predator is far enough away, it might not notice you.
But image analyst Ben Bradford believes there are crucial differences between the behavior in this footage and normal animal responses.
Sometimes in the wild, animals that are confronted by a predator will just freeze. And that might explain what's going on here, except for the fact that they don't seem to be in panic. They're looking in different directions. So it's not as if they're all looking towards one wolf.
The last known wolf sighting in England was here in Cumbria, but that was in the year 1390. And Rory believes the sheep remained frozen for far longer than an animal would naturally stay still.
They had been stood there for probably at least a good 1 hour and 30 minutes, which is a long time. So if something was in there that spooked them, surely it would have gone by now. That just doesn't make sense.
Coming up, evidence of a mind control experiment at a nearby top-secret lab.
Could governments use this kind of technology to turn people on and off just by flicking a switch?
And a creepy car which screeches like a banshee and seems to be driven by a ghost.
You can clearly see there's no one in the driver's seat. There's no one operating. Is this car haunted?
In northern England, Rory Davis captures a bizarre scene of impossibly motionless sheep.
These sheep were frozen solid. Tried to make some noise, I sort of waved my hands around, but they just did not move at all.
Science journalist Steve Podman searches the surrounding area. He discovers these stationary sheep are close to one of Britain's most clandestine experimental military sites, RAF Spadeadam.
There's a secret military base here that originally was built to look at ballistic missiles, but once the Cold War ended, they kind of switched over to looking at secret electronic warfare development.
The site, used by both American and UK military scientists, is one of the most remote in England. It's surrounded by rugged terrain and treacherous peat bogs, the perfect place to develop strange and dangerous weapons. British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher is rumored to have ordered government researchers to start work on a bizarre anti-personnel weapon in the 1980s, just as she faces one of her greatest tests.
In the early 80s in the UK, there was something known as the Brixton Riots.
The violence spreads across the UK, turning city after city into violent battlegrounds. Britain's unarmed police are powerless in the face of the angry mob. It's reported Thatcher orders a technological solution to put these uprisings down.
It's been discovered that you can use electromagnetic pulses to actually control the brains of mammals, even humans, and put them into a kind of trance.
I've heard stories, but never seen evidence. This may be it.
Scientists operating under a secret project codenamed Sleeping Beauty claim they can use directed microwave energy to implant subconscious messages into targets, inducing behavioral change and involuntary paralysis.
These animals look like they're being affected en masse by something extremely powerful and very targeted.
Potvin wonders if these frozen sheep could be part of an experiment to use this technology again in today's turbulent times.
If what we're seeing here is proof that a weapon like this exists, then what does that mean for us? Could governments use this kind of technology to turn people on and off just by flicking a switch?
The UK government refuses to confirm or deny what tests are being carried out near Troutbeck. But it's unlikely they'd conduct a top-secret test so close to a public road.
I have no idea how or why this happened, and this is one of the most strangest experiences I have ever had.
Unless more evidence comes to light, we just won't be able to say what caused these sheep to freeze like they did on that hill.
Now, Quito, the capital of Ecuador. October 2015. A CCTV camera watches over an underground parking lot.
We see a man approaching the vehicle on the left side of the frame, opens the door, grabs a box,
and he closes the door, and it appears as though he locks it, and then he's off.
Then the car takes on a life of its own. Untouched by human hands, the motor appears to start, straining hard against the screechy handbrake. And the car creeps slowly forward.
This car is moving by itself and screaming like a banshee.
You can clearly see there's no one in the driver's seat. I mean, there's no one operating this.
There is no slope here or oil on the floor that might make the car roll forward. 30 minutes later, the owner returns to find his car over 20 feet from where it was parked.
The driver is back, and he is just totally perplexed that his car just moved from where he left it. He goes and gets one of the attendants to kind of help with trying to figure out what happened with his car.
The fact that the car seemed to wait until it was alone to move seems super creepy.
It almost seems like this vehicle has a mind of its own.
Coming up, has this man bought a killer car?
By changing the key makeup of the car, you're taking your life into your own hands.
In Ecuador, a parked car's engine mysteriously switches on by itself, and then the car accelerates forward, despite a handbrake holding it in place. Stories of haunted houses are reported all over the world, but it's claimed the dead can also possess cars. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was shot in a Grafton-Stift limousine in 1914. The car is still said to be haunted. The ghosts of Bonnie and Clyde are rumored to haunt their bullet-riddled Ford V8, now on display at a casino in Nevada.
If we're looking at haunted cars, of course we're all familiar with the fictional version, which is Stephen King's Christine. There's a real car, which was a 1964 Dodge. It was called a Golden Eagle.
It's branded the most haunted car in America. Getting behind the wheel is said to take you on a journey to hell. Its first owners are the old Orchard Beach Police Department in Maine.
3 officers drove this car, and each of them, unusually, went on to commit murder-suicides. They killed their families, and then they killed themselves.
Horrified members of a local church try to commandeer the vehicle and perform an exorcism. It's a fatal mistake.
Unfortunately, on the way, they were hit by an 18-wheeler, and many of them were decapitated. So, when you believe in ghosts, it's not that surprising that you would feel that cars behave in supernatural ways.
But engineer Brian Walshin suspects cybercrime could be behind the car's ghostly movement.
When I see footage like this, where a vehicle is appearing to start itself and to make an attempt to drive, I wonder if that could be a case of hacking.
Most modern vehicles are built with an onboard computer. Some of these perform so many functions, from controlling engine emissions to navigation, that the car can almost be said to be a computer on wheels. And with so many cars now connected to the internet, this makes them vulnerable to attack.
Once a hacker takes control, they can do anything they want. They can make the car drive, they can take over steering, they can take over braking, they can actually lock the passengers inside of the vehicle. This is a huge risk. Someone could be sitting in their basement or their bedroom and use the internet to control millions of vehicles all over the world.
Former FBI Special Agent Rhonda Glover runs the footage through enhancement software and identifies the car's brand. But she finds it slightly different in shape to how it leaves the factory.
Looking at the space between the tire and the rim, it just seems to be a little bit more, which gives an indication that there have been some modifications where the suspension may have been tampered with or it's been jacked up.
Nick Householder agrees someone could have made customizations to the car.
I think it's what people call a hot hatch. It's a type of car that a car enthusiast would want to take and just do a ton of stuff to, modify as much as they can.
Car modification is a business worth over $100 billion worldwide, transforming run-of-the-mill motors into personalized supercars. But amateurs risk death when they drive hot rods. This car meet in Stevenage, England, ended in tragedy when 2 out-of-control vehicles collide at dangerously high speed. No one was killed, but 19 teenagers are horrifically maimed and injured.
If the car's been modified badly, a mistake in the ignition could cause exactly what we're seeing.
You can hear a whirling sound, and that's probably the starter motor and the squeal of the tires as it moves against the parking brake.
Householder believes the man in the video is lucky to be alive.
Modifying a car is just inherently risky. The engineers design the car in a specific way such that they can understand and predict the reliability and safety of that vehicle. By changing the key makeup of a car, you're taking your life into your own hands.
Worldwide, 36 billion cameras are watching us. On our streets, at work, and in our homes. They capture things that seem impossible.
Science says this shouldn't happen.
We see that? Experts carry out forensic analysis of these unusual events.
Wow, what a blast!
This doesn't make sense.
There has to be some sort of explanation.
What else is going on here?
Coming up, in the land of the dragon, are these flying creatures shooting fire from their mouths?
You're fixing to have a shower of molten metal falling on your head.
A family buys a house said to be haunted and captures this on the nanny cam.
That's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
And Hitler's escaped pet alligator. Is it terrorizing a German nudist beach?
They can even hear the sound of bones snapping.
Bizarre phenomena.
Oh my god.
Mysteries caught on camera. What's the truth behind this strange evidence? Shenyang. This sprawling metropolis of over 7 million people is the largest city in northeast China. August 3rd, 2020. In the Tiachi district, as commuters hurry home, a man films a dark object swooping between the skyscrapers.
And then all of a sudden, boom! And there's this big flash, kind of diagonal explosion. There's this sort of finger of God suddenly appearing and just raining flames down on the people below.
Oh my god.
The entire side of a high-rise with over 100 apartments is engulfed in fire.
A blazing fire like that shouldn't just appear out of nowhere.
The ferocious tongue of flame appears to come from this mysterious flying object.
Is this tower under attack?
The airborne menace seems to be gliding on enormous black wings. It's an image that leads locals to speculate the fireball is the work of a terrifying legendary creature.
In China, there's a belief in dragons that goes back thousands of years, 6,000 to 7,000 years.
Dragons are found in myths and legends all over the world. But in China, strange stories have emerged in modern times of encounters with mysterious reptilian creatures.
In 1934, in one village, Yingkao, villagers claimed to have actually found a dragon that had fallen from the sky.
The enormous horned skeleton is put on display and photographed, but authorities are unable to identify the supposed fallen dragon as any known living species. And during the chaos of World War II, the remains disappear.
Belief in dragons in China is so ingrained that you can imagine people see this and think, my God, we are under attack from dragons.
Observers dismiss the great creatures with wings as large birds. But science journalist Amy Shirotidal finds that in China, even birds aren't always what they seem.
Strangest of all the Chinese spy technology might be the bird drone. It's so lifelike that the drone is mistaken for a bird not just by humans, but by other birds. It uses GPS technology to get around and then send information back via satellite.
Avian androids, almost impossible to distinguish from real birds, are being deployed by more than 30 military and government agencies in at least 5 provinces across China. These robo-birds have a top speed of 25 miles per hour and monitor citizens' daily lives from above.
So if you can make a drone that looks convincingly Like a bird, you could gather a massive database on populations in order to control them.
And physicist Antonio Paris uncovers evidence China is going one step further. Unleashing flying machines that would put the power of dragons to shame.
We do know that China is weaponizing drones.
In 2013, Chinese security forces planned to assassinate a drug dealer with over 40 pounds of TNT attached to a drone. In 2020, the government unveiled its suicide swarm, groups of 200 lethal flying robots armed with explosives, commanded by AI, that work as a team to destroy China's enemies.
You see these unidentified flying objects. You see this massive fire engulf this building. Could this be a weaponized project by the Chinese?
Physicist Athena Brensberger studies weather reports for the day of the blast and finds something incredible was happening in the sky.
There was about 3 inches of rain per hour over a 5-hour period. Maybe these dark objects that we see flying in the sky are actually birds leaving before the storm.
Former FBI agent Rhonda Glover believes she's found a clue.
It appears that it is falling in a straight line through the air. It's not expanding. It could be following an electrical wire of some sort.
Possibly a lightning strike has struck the line. But a typical lightning strike hitting a power line would not cause the vaporization like we see in the video.
But perhaps this is no ordinary power line. China has a problem. Over 780 million people, more than twice the entire population of the United States, are living in its crowded cities, and there isn't enough power. To stop these cities from plunging into darkness, the Chinese authorities are building 20,000 miles of ultra-high voltage power lines from west to east to bring electricity to the rapidly expanding metropolises. Each carries over 800,000 volts, and experts warn these lines are dangerous.
Security analysts see these lines as being vulnerable to terrorism. If you were to take out one of these high-power lines, not only would it create a huge explosion, but it could lead to widespread blackouts.
And the lines are also potentially vulnerable to lightning strikes. This cable runs right past an apartment block, putting hundreds of people at risk if it blows.
So is it possible that this power line could be one of those Chinese high voltage power lines?
Electrical engineer David Wallace examines the explosion.
We have a massive burst of fire and flames going across the street. This is a massive release of energy that I'm looking at right here.
Wallace sets up an experiment to find out if lightning striking an ultra-high voltage cable would result in an explosion like this.
Okay, we're getting ready to start our experiment here.
To replicate the ultra-high voltage lines in Shenyang, Wallace suspends a wire 15 feet in the air.
So let's raise it up.
The thin wire has a capacity of over 200,000 volts, and Wallace will overload it to simulate a lightning strike.
So what we're going to try and see is what happens when this lightning impulse strikes this cable. Now, for this run, we're going to need about 250,000 volts. So this is a deadly voltage here. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be anywhere around this. I'm fixing to go to the safety zone. Alright, let's get ready in 3, 2, 1, energize.
Coming up, Has China's passion for power unleashed a fire-breathing monster?
It's just reckless and unsafe.
And from cradle to beyond the grave, a nightmare on a nanny cam.
I would never leave my baby alone again.